Back on a Sunday session for a live, just getting set up, and we'll give everyone. Oh, I haven't even put the details in. It's going to be a good session today. I'm looking forward to it. Going to be a bit of a special session today because we're recording this one. Um, Let me just get set up on Facebook. Bear with me. And really important session today because we're talking about a topic that doesn't get spoken about enough. It's something I'm personally really passionate about as well. What is this? Not see. Okay. Yeah, it's a topic that definitely doesn't get spoken about enough. So we want to shed some light on this topic today. Okay, it should be live on Facebook now as well. I'm trying to share some slides, so I'm not sure if everyone will be able to see that, particularly on Facebook. And okay, it should be live on Facebook now. I think we're live on YouTube. My mouse has disappeared. That's strange. Okay. All right, so I think we should be good to go. Sweet. Okay. I'm gonna go live on Instagram and Facebook now, and then we can get into it. All right. So go here. Go here. Okay. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Sunday today, so you know what that means. It's a live session. Just whilst everyone is jumping in. It's going to be a fun session today. It's going to be talking about a very important topic, something that doesn't get spoken about enough. I actually did a presentation at University of East London last week about this topic, but I felt like we need to talk about it more. We need to open up the conversation, and I think actually being part of that session was really insightful for me just to see, how little support people dealing with this issue are actually getting. So well, what to do for fibroids? You just you've just covered it. So yeah, today we're going to be talking about fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS, PMDD as well. Quite a lot to get through. Guys, before you just think, I'm not interested in this one, this is very important for you to understand. Not enough men take interest in the woman's cycle, in the issues that women have to deal with every month. And, it's a male dominated workplace, it's a male dominated society. And if we don't have the ability to empathize and understand what women are going through, we cannot build a society that even allows women to thrive and survive. So, very important for everyone to listen in today. Of course, women, especially women dealing with the conditions I'm going to be talking about, should be super helpful, should be super insightful. Hopefully, you'll definitely learn something as well. I'm pretty sure you'll learn something today as well. Um, I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping at the start 'cause there's lots of stuff going on at Magic Tree. And then today's going to be a little bit different. Just get rid of this. Um, yeah, today's going to be a little bit different because we're trying to share some slides today. So on YouTube and Facebook, I think you might be able to see that. I'm not sure.
You can, yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, we'll try and improve the format. Always looking to improve. If there's any technical issues, then yeah. It's also why we're a little bit late, so apologies. So because it's going to be a more structured session today, I'm going to be kind of talking through more solidly. We'll save the Q&A for the end a little bit more strictly. So I'll be talking for about 30, 40 minutes, and then we'll get to questions. So if you do have questions, you can write them down. Jade is here, and she will be monitoring the chats on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Oh, I
So
actually can't be seen today.
Oh, she will be JD's Tooldrobe on TikTok, Josiah underscore Matty on Instagram and on Facebook. I think she's just Magic Tree on YouTube on Facebook, or she'll just be filtering the questions through to me when we get to the Q&A.
Yep.
So yeah, do get your questions in. Stick around because I will be answering them, or as many as I can at least. But yeah, before we get into that, let's talk about some new exciting things that are going on with us. So, in no particular order, Christmas is around the corner. For those who celebrate it, it's Christmas gift season time. I personally had this issue for the last 5 years. I feel like everything that I'm looking at to buy as a Christmas present is a death in a wrapped in Christmas paper. You know, if it's the perfumes, if it's the candles, if it's the deodorants, if it's the body washes, if it's the makeup, it's all full of chemicals. So this year we wanted to do give the gift of health because we don't do that enough. And it's not kind of pharmacological medicine type supplements that we put in the Christmas gift set. It's the type of supplements that everyone will benefit from. You know, essentially multivitamins plus. That's what's in the Christmas gift set. So we just launched that a couple of days ago, just to give everyone the opportunity to, take the burden of having to buy a Christmas present off your hands and know you're doing something good for the person. So yeah, give the gift of health this year. So that Christmas gift set is now live on the website. You'll see a tab that says Christmas gift set. Last deliveries for Christmas to the US, I think, will be tomorrow, or was it yesterday? Or was it Friday?
That final chance. Well,
Well,
yeah, tomorrow.
obviously, if delays happen, delays happen. But standard delivery times, tomorrow should be the last day. For everyone in Europe, it's around, I mean, yeah, sooner the better. But this week, early this week, and then depends on your country. But for the UK, the final delivery for regular delivery will be this Friday, and then for express delivery, it will be on Monday. So, yeah, just bear that in mind. The Christmas gift is now launched, and also the ADHD kit is now launched. So we did a live on Wednesday's live, was talking about the ADHD kit, was talking about autism as well, the root cause, the genetic theory, what we can do to help those symptoms. Just worth caveating, with ADHD, we do see significant improvements. With autism, you know, I'm not saying the kit, if you have a heavily autistic child, I'm not saying the kit will remove all autistic symptoms within a matter of weeks. That's not what the kit is about. It's about helping you to manage that situation. So yes, we have seen it reverse symptoms of autism. It does turn or help non-verbal children become verbal. It does help children who struggle with social interactions improve that. It does help adults focus. It does help, the autism symptoms. I guess I just want to be clear and transparent that, if you're someone dealing with a severely autistic child, it's not a magic pill that's going to fix everything, but it does help. I've also written a guide that goes alongside the ADHD and autism kit as well. So this is talking about the foods that you should be eating, the foods that you should be avoiding, the foods that you should hey Jam, the foods that Pamela even, I would read it as Jam. The foods that you should be eating, the foods that you should be avoiding, the lifestyle factors as well. So these, is IG, what's going on? If people are, yeah, Pamela's saying there's IG's bugging out, so.
Oh, I can see you.
Yeah, if you're having trouble seeing me on Instagram, just let me know.
To be fair, I did tell you it was glitchy before, so I don't know if that's the same thing.
Okay. Well, I'll continue. But if it's being glitchy, just let me know in the comments. So what was I saying? ADHD kit, yes. So I've actually written a guide to go alongside that because it's actually been amazing, and I knew ADHD and autism was on the rise, but the amount of messages that we've received asking about the kit. I think it speaks to how few solutions there are on the market, which is really disappointing. And I think it also speaks to, the number of children that are being born autistic now. The number is rising. Of course, identification is more advanced now, where we are identifying it, particularly with mild autism as well. But there's a lot of families that need help, because I think the pressure of raising an autistic child, we kind of just, yeah, we know it's tough, but we don't really have any support systems in place for that. So, yeah, really happy to get that kit launched. Really happy to see people using the kit. Really looking forward to seeing more feedback, more testimonials, and growing things that way as well.
I'm getting the trouble with rolling
On Instagram.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. So, but yeah, delighted to launch that kit. So that is available now on the website. It's available on TikTok Shop as well. It's called the Focus Kit on TikTok Shop. Yeah, Dara, I've just seen your point there on Spectrum, and I have 4 nieces and nephews, and that we understand why it's called genetic when we understand it's a heavy metals issue that can get passed down to the generations. But that's what the kit is all about. We'll probably do another live on the ADHD and autism probably before the new year, just because it was a shortened session last time. I had to jump off. So yes, we will move back onto that. But because of the talk I did last Friday, I wanted to talk about. Okay, thank you for letting me know Instagram is clear. I just wanted to talk about the women's issues today. I do like to do a female focused live at least once a month, just because I don't think there's enough spoken about it. So that's what we're doing today. But the ADHD and autism, yeah, just to say, been overwhelmed by the response, and we will do another session on that soon. In terms of the job opportunity that we posted or announced a few like last week, yeah, it's been super busy this week. The plan is we're still reviewing applications. So if you have expressed interest, we haven't ignored it. It's still there. The plan is to have been traveling as well. So that's also been a bit of a blocker on things. But that will be, expect to hear back, yeah, this week coming as we work through that. Any other housekeeping points?
No.
No. Okay. Cool. All right. So yeah, let's talk about PMDD. Let's talk about Okay. Let me just do this. Figure out this slide situation. So if I do that, can I see it?
I'm getting we're having trouble with this video again.
Okay. All right. What I'll say, if you are,
Could be me though, so just keep on.
I've had a few people say it's working live. Yeah, what I'll say is if you're struggling on Instagram, I haven't seen any comments saying it is struggling on TikTok or Facebook.
No,
So,
that's fine.
so if you have TikTok, we're also streaming live there as well, so you can try and go there. Or you can try Facebook. It could be an Instagram thing. We are in and out of we are bouncing around hotels, so the Wi-Fi isn't always the strongest. There's storms all the time as well, so that can cause things to cut out. But yeah, we're trying to do the best we can. Dara, the job opportunity was just we are looking for support. We haven't exactly defined what that role is. It definitely will pertain to helping us respond to all the inbound messages asking about the kits, asking about what people can do to heal. So there is a training program in terms of doing a naturopathy course and also a master herbalism course, also direct training under myself as well, to bring you up to speed. And then most of the job will involve with helping to help the people. And then depending where your personal skills and interests are in developing, then we can mold the role to a role that suits you. It's a flexible opportunity as well. So it's not a full-time thing. So yeah, I suppose, and then we can figure it out from there depending on who the right candidate is. We're based in the UK. The role is remote, so you don't need to be in the UK. It's a great thing about what we do. We work with people all over the world. So yeah, I guess that covers that one. Okay, cool. Let's get into it. So today, I wanted to talk about fibroids. We want to talk about PMDD. We want to talk about PMS. We want to talk about endometriosis. We want to talk about adenomyosis as well, and PCOS, if I didn't already say that one. There's a lot to talk about when we're talking about these issues. I'm going to try and condense all of that into a 30, 40-minute session. I'm going to say a lot. I'm going to be moving through things quite quickly. So, do watch this back, take notes, and try and digest everything that's going on. There'll be a few key principles that I'll try and bring out as we go through. But yeah, this is probably going to be the first time you've heard these conditions broken down and grouped and separated in this way. So try not to be overwhelmed, try and keep up, and it's going to be a good one. Okay, so first I want to talk about the hormonal myths, because whenever we're talking about female wellness issues, hormones always get blamed, rightly or wrongly. Female hormones always enter the discussion as a cause of the issue, and that is not always the case. So we want to put that right. As I said, we're going to talk about fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, PCOS. We're also going to go through PMDD and explain that. What causes that? Is it genetic? Is it hormonal? These are the questions we need to answer. Is it just bad PMS? These are all the really important questions that we need to clarify. And then, of course, as we always do, we're going to talk about the foods that you need to avoid, because it's all about the needle movers in either direction. We can get hyper focused on every single thing being consumed, but what's important is we need to understand what's making things really bad and what are things that are really good from a diet perspective, and making sure we're hitting the mark there. And then we're going to talk about the herbs that we can use. Of course, that's what we're all about, natural herbs. And there's lots of herbs that can really help in these situations. So we're going to talk about the herbs, and then, as I said, we're going to open it up for some Q&A as well. Okay, so let's talk about the hormone cycle. Without going into crazy detail about how all the hormones move throughout the menstrual cycle, or the period. It's not the focal point of this session. I think it is something that all men and women should study to just understand how half of our population naturally move throughout the month. But as I say, it's not the focal point of this session. What we need to understand is a few key hormones, or the hormones that get spoken about most prominently. And that would be estrogen, or in its active form, estradiol. That would be progesterone, which plays a massive role in PMDD. Luteinizing hormone, which gets spoken about, is kind of the building block of estrogen as well. And then follicle stimulating hormone as well, FSH, that's what causes eggs to be released during ovulation. Luteinizing hormone and FSH aren't really the cause of any of the issues specifically we'll be talking about today. They're kind of the effect. So we do see them, we can observe them, but they're not the root cause. The estrogen, or the estradiol, that often gets blamed. Estrogen dominance is a real thing. But in terms of how it moves through the cycle, the way you will feel in terms of your PMS symptoms is, when estrogen is crashing, that's when you're generally going to feel bad. When progesterone is crashing, that's generally when you're going to feel bad. If they happen at the same time, that's when you get PMS symptoms, which happens in the back half of the luteal phase. We'll explain why that is so much worse in PMDD as well. But then, as well as these hormones, there are other hormones that kind of get ignored when we talk about a hormonal issue. When we talk about hormonal issue, we get sidetracked and tend to focus on just the sexual hormones. We don't really talk about insulin. Insulin and cortisol are massive disruptors in terms of androgens. They're massive disruptors in terms of your estrogen as well. They cause luteinizing hormone to spike, which can cause problems as well, as we'll talk about when we talk about PCOS. So, the cortisol as well burdens the liver. And with one of the liver's main jobs is to protect the reproductive tract. So that can cause massive secondary issues as well. Thyroid hormones as well, which I haven't got on the slides, but they also can play a massive role, more in terms of replicating the types of symptoms that could cause a misdiagnosis, but definitely not something to be ignored. Testosterone, we don't really talk about testosterone when we're talking about women's health, but it's still a really important hormone in the context of that's largely a result of a fast drop in testosterone during menopause. And then finally, when we talk about hormones, currently there's no differentiation between your hormones and exogenous hormones. When we say estrogen dominance, there's no specification as to where the estrogen has come from. We don't talk about the toxic synthetic hormones, the types of hormones that people expose themselves to for decades with, 10 years plus, with contraceptives. We don't talk about the hormones that women get exposed to during IVF, which is a common cause of common trigger of fibroids. We don't talk about the synthetic hormones in red meat or in eggs or in chicken. These are a massive source of exogenous hormones that can cause endocrine disruption that kind of get ignored. So we're going to explain that in a bit more detail as well. So, fibroids, endometriosis, PCOS, what causes it? So let's start with the fibroids and the endometriosis. Now, some of you that have followed me for a while would have heard me explain this, but I'll explain it again for everyone's benefit. So, fibroids. These are growths on the uterus wall. And essentially, what is happening there? It's a cocktail of three different toxins. So you have an underlying pathogen, typically Epstein-Barr virus or Streptococcus. These two viruses will attack the liver first, actually the liver. When the liver gets overburdened with these toxins, when the toxins are feeding on heavy metals, which is the second ingredient in the cocktail, and that could be in the variety of lead, arsenic, cadmium, mercury. But when these pathogens are feeding on these heavy metals, it overburdens the liver. That forces the liver to essentially spit out the toxins. Now, these pathogens make a beeline for the reproductive tract. The liver's still reeling from having to deal with all these toxins. It can't step in and protect the uterus. Now, these pathogens are attacking the uterus. Your uterus has a few different defense mechanisms. It can, one, encase the virus in fluid, and that might be a cyst. It can, it can form a more keloid type growth around the cyst. That would be a fibroid. It can grow the endometrial lining to try and encase the virus again. That would be endometriosis. Or it can grow inside the uterine lining, and that would be adenomyosis. Now, these are four different conditions. They don't require four different medications because they're all the same cause. When you have these fibroids growing in hyperdrive, because sometimes the fibroids grow slowly over 10 years, sometimes you have complete fibroids removed during surgery. The doctor says, yep, clean sweep, they're all gone. And then 3 months or 6 months later, you go back and you've got another 20 centimeter fibroid. How can that happen? That's where the hormones come in. Fibroids aren't an estrogen issue in and itself. It's an exogenous estrogen issue. When you've got the toxic hormones, as I said, IVF is a common one. When women get surgery to remove fibroids, because they want a baby, and then they go on IVF to try and speed up that process, and then before they've even had a chance to get pregnant again, the fibroids have grown back. I've heard that from multiple women directly. And it is the hormones that you get placed on during the IVF that will be the synthetic toxic hormones that can grow the fibroids. Women, the damage that gets done to the reproductive tract from being on contraceptive just for years, and the downsides of it never get communicated. It doesn't, unless you have an acute reaction, where you are almost allergic to the type of contraceptive. It's kind of just taken part of the course, and it can be, you can be on those exogenous hormones for decades in some cases, from the ages of 14, 15, all the way up to, early 30s. Or if you don't want kids, all the way through, and then you deal with the ramifications of that. So these are exposures that definitely need to be considered. We'll talk about the dietary exposures more in the when we talk about the foods that can help. But let's talk about PCOS. So what causes PCOS? Now, PCOS is actually more of a hormonal issue. There's a complex cycle to explain PCOS. Some people will say, well, it's just I've got too many follicles, which means I grow too many eggs and there's not enough space, so therefore ovulation doesn't happen, and then a cyst grows around the undeveloped eggs, and that's what causes my polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now, whilst that is observed, that's not the cause of anything happening. There's a cycle that happens, but it all kind of, the crux of the cycle is high levels of insulin. Because when your insulin is high, it increases the androgen production. Now, when your androgen production, which is male sex hormones essentially, increases, that's where you might get the facial hair associated with PCOS. What that high androgen level also does is prevent ovulation, and that's where the egg doesn't get released. Now, a cyst grows around that egg. But when ovulation doesn't happen, that causes a GFRH pulse. Now, what that pulse does is stimulate luteinizing hormone. Then what that luteinizing hormone does is stimulate more androgen production. What that higher androgen production does is dysregulate your hormones. That causes insulin resistance, higher levels of insulin. That cycle repeats. Now, that's quite a complex cycle to try and wrap your head around and say, well, where did it start? Or, was it the the GFRH pulse, or was it the luteinizing hormone, or was it, thankfully, we don't need to understand that to break the cycle, because where the cycle starts and ends is the high insulin. and we can break that. It's the same reason why metformin is prescribed for people with PCOS, because metformin is a diabetes medication. Metformin increases insulin sensitivity. Metformin lowers insulin. So the problem is metformin also damages the kidneys. So there's plenty of natural solutions, herbal solutions, dietary solutions that you can do to help your PCOS, and it's essentially following an anti-diabetic protocol. And there is a difference. It's also worth noting there is a difference between insulin resistance, which is what's happening in type 2 diabetes, and just high levels of insulin. You know, high insulin resistance does not mean you have high levels of insulin. That's just worth clarifying as well. Okay, so let's talk about, now we've spoken about what causes these symptoms in good detail. Let's talk about what foods can you eat to prevent it. And I've seen some questions, how to treat it without surgery. This is what we're talking about now. This is where we're moving into. How can we start to really knock down the fibroid? So let's start with the foods that you definitely want to avoid. I mentioned those exogenous hormones, and in order, I'd even say this in order, what you need to avoid is dairy. And I mean dairy in all its forms: dairy in cream, dairy in butter, dairy in yogurt, even though they always tell you yogurt is really good for your reproductive health.
Cheese.
You want to avoid yogurt in cheese. You want to avoid yogurt in avoid dairy in did I say milk? So yeah, all of these different forms of dairy should be avoided, particularly where you've got high sugar forms of dairy, so sweetened cream, or milk in a coffee, or cereal with sugar in it. These are all the dangerous forms, because when you add sugar, that's feeding the underlying Streptococcus or Epstein-Barr virus that we spoke about with the fibroid. When you have sugar, it's worsening it's commanding more insulin to come in to get that sugar out of your system. When it's higher in fat, again, it's creating an environment where underlying viral pathogens can thrive. One thing I didn't mention with the PCOS, you'll see sources that say, well, PCOS is a viral issue, it's an Epstein-Barr issue. That can also be true, because Epstein-Barr can raise your insulin levels as well. So again, it depends on what the root cause is, and that might be different for different people. You might just eat too much sugar, you might have an underlying viral issue, but what we still need to do is get the insulin down. So dairy is something that you definitely want to cut out, especially sweetened dairy. Eggs is another big one. And just to say, there's obviously things that you want to avoid, like cookies and cakes and ice cream, which is another dairy one. I'm talking about the things that I see people eating, and I ask them, so what does your diet look like? And they say, yeah, my diet is fantastic, or my diet is really good. I start the day with eggs and avocado and on some sourdough bread, and then I'll have a yogurt with some granola for lunch. And these are the problems. Eggs, dairy, it's throughout the day. So these are the problems that we need to address. Eggs feed the virus. Eggs are high in fat. Eggs burden the liver. Viruses have feeding frenzy on eggs. Eggs have exogenous hormones. If you look at chickens, and I don't think it's as bad in the UK, but definitely in other countries, you look at chickens, they're fed other dead chickens from the same generation. And we know what happens to poisons through animals, through life cycles. It gets concentrated. That's why you want to eat lower down the food chain, because there's less toxins, toxins are less concentrated. So imagine you've got chickens eating the chickens who are eating their chicken. It's accelerating the toxic load of that chicken. What else are chickens fed? Antibiotics. What else chicken feed sprayed with? Pesticides. So it's not the chicken itself that is the problem, it's what the poultry industry does to that chicken, which can make it highly toxic. Now, if you live next to a farm and you know that farmer and you know their practices and you know that chicken's got all the green grass to run in, then eggs will still be quite high on the list. Chicken falls down on the list. But the problem is most people don't have that luxury, and that's why eggs would be second on the list. Coffee, another thing that people are drinking daily, thinking it's great for the brain. It's not. Coffee is a cortisol spiker. And cortisol is bad for PCOS because when you have cortisol, it dysregulates insulin, which can make it higher. When you have high cortisol, it burdens the liver, which means it can't protect the uterus as well. Higher cortisol creates an environment where Epstein-Barr virus and Streptococcus can thrive. The cortisol is not doing us any favors. It's not doing us any favors. So we can drop the green tea, we can drop the black tea, we can drop the coffee, we can drop the matcha. All of these things are doing more harm than good. We don't need to be drinking these things. Just to say, even if it's organic, because I know the word organic fools a lot of people. When it comes to chicken and the eggs, all organic means is that instead of being in a metal cage, they're in a wooden cage. That's what that word means. It doesn't mean anything. Even free range, all it means is that they're in a cage on grass rather than, a concrete floor. These words are very much marketing terms and they should be taken with a pinch of salt. They really should. Soy is the other thing to avoid. There's a lot of talk about phytoestrogens when we're talking about women's reproductive issues. And phytoestrogens are very misunderstood. The phytoestrogens in soy are bad. The phytoestrogens in flax seeds or chia seeds aren't bad. Why? Because they have ligand and agallic acid. That's what helps buffer and stabilize the phytoestrogens inside your system. So soy is something to be avoided because it doesn't have that. Soy feeds viruses as well. So it's phytoestrogenic and it feeds viruses. And it's something that, someone who's looking to switch to a healthier diet ends up eating in higher quantities. The edamame, the tofu, the tempeh, soy milk, if they're looking for a vegan alternative. All of these are soy sauce. All of these are soy exposure that you want to be avoiding or keeping an eye out on because it's not doing you any favors. Okay. Red meat would be another one. Again, this is more of an industry issue as opposed to the red meat itself, but super high in fat is burdening the liver, and super high fat is making your insulin higher. So, and that's because when your liver is higher in fat, it can't produce glycogen as much. Your pancreas has to step in. It increases the workload. Insulin spikes. So I know a lot of people think, oh, it's keto, doesn't do insulin, or keto avoids sugar. No, that's the pathway as to why it does. So we need to avoid fatty foods as well. Fatty food is not good food. Fried foods, of course. If someone told me or someone asked me, are you better off eating organic fried chicken or a glass of milk? I'd actually tell the person to eat organic fried chicken. Because even though it's fried and fried is not good, it's not as bad as the dairy. So, but obviously, avoid fried foods. We covered some non-organic chicken as well, and then gluten is another one. So gluten gets a bad rap all around, but mostly if you're intolerant. But even if you are not celiac, you still should be avoiding gluten generally if you are dealing with a chronic issue like these. Because what the gluten does, in the forms you usually get gluten, which is white pasta, white bread, even brown bread, brown pasta still, it's usually going to be something that breaks down into acidity. And that's why it should be avoided, as well as the fact it's highly inflammatory. So it's just helping the Epstein-Barr virus, the Streptococcus, to thrive. Which we don't want to be doing. And in the case of PCOS, if you're eating white pasta, white bread, again, it's high starch, it's demanding more insulin, so we can be avoiding that. So that all sounds pretty doom and gloom. So what can we eat? That's the important thing. What can we eat? Well, we can eat, this is not an exhaustive list of foods. So, winter squash, sweet potatoes, purple yam. What all these things have in common? Root, vegetable, carbohydrates. These are what should be the foundation of a lot of your meals because they're easy to get your calories in, they're easy to bulk out the plate, they're tasty, they're versatile, they don't have to be boring. You can mash them, you can steam them, you can saute them, you can have fun with them, and they're filling. It's just a better alternative to things like the rice or the pasta that we've just become so accustomed to getting to being lazy with, honestly. So root vegetable carbohydrates are great because they cleanse the uterus. They are rich in phytochelators. They are rich in nutrients. They are rich in ash minerals. These are the types of carbohydrates, healing carbohydrates that you actually want to be incorporating as well. Even in the case of PCOS, which is an insulin issue, these are the types of healing carbohydrates you want to be incorporating. So what else can we do? Green vegetables as well, of course. Asparagus is really good for the uterus. You can juice your asparagus as well. We can do Brussels sprouts. We can do broccoli sprouts. We can do kale. We can do spinach. All of these are helpful as well. You know, the asparagus would still score a bit higher in terms of priority to incorporate, then probably the sprouts, and then you can look to your other leafy green vegetables. Turmeric is always going to be in any healing protocol, anti-inflammatory, just really good for the whole body. You know, if you're someone who's trying to get off the rice, or you know, from an African diet, we see a lot of African women struggling with fibroids, then quinoa is your best grain. You know, avoid the pounded yam, do the quinoa. Quinoa is better than rice, it's better than wild rice, it's better than the spelt flour, all these other things. Quinoa is the best grain, honestly. Amaranth, you know, if you're a heavy bleeder, if you are struggling with the pain of fibroids or just the blood loss, the fatigue, if you are anemic, you know, these are super common, then the amaranth is the best grain for you because it's the most rich in iron and it's a blood builder. You know, these are better than things like couscous. These are better than things like millet. These are better than things like bulgur. These are the ones you want to be doing. Quinoa, amaranth, sorghum, if you're looking for a more doughy type grain as well. The sorghum as well. So yeah, this is what you want to be eating. And then the fruits as well. So with the fruit, you want to be doing as much as you can. There's no such thing as a bad fruit when it comes to fibroids or you know the conditions we're talking about. But you know, papaya is really good. Your lysine-rich fruits are going to be really good. So your figs, your dried apricots, as I say, there's nothing bad, but anything with zinc or lysine are going to help go after the viruses most. And then your hydrating fruits like watermelons, those are going to be really helpful. Your berries are going to help with your adrenals to help lower that cortisol. These are all kind of accompanying things to prioritize, but all fruit is good fruit. And then, as I said, flax seeds, chia seeds, these are good seeds, you know, even milk thistle seeds, sunflower seeds. These are all good seeds to be incorporating. You don't need to be worrying about the phytoestrogens in these seeds. Dates are also good as well. So yeah, okay. So what about the herbs? We've spoken about the food. What herbs can we use to start to heal the fibroids, shrink the fibroids? You know, we've spoken about what the dietary things will stop it from getting worse, and in some cases will start to shrink in itself. But what can we do to really go after the fibroids, knock down the underlying pathogens, and change the landscape? So the good thing is, you know, if it's fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, it's the same herbs we can use. And it's also worth saying as well, you know, 70% of fibroids, well, 80% of fibroids go undiagnosed. So if you are someone who is a heavy bleeder, if you're someone who gets really bad bloating, if you're someone who is anemic, you're fatigued all the time, if you're someone who has back pain, you know, I actually have a video on the page talking about all the different signs that you may have fibroids, but it's really important because 80% go undiagnosed. It's usually only if you are, you know, complaining of severe pain or issues or discomfort, or you are, you know, struggling with fertility, so then you go and get a scan, then it's, oh, you've got the fibroids. But a lot of women don't really find out until it's too late, and it's usually around the time where surgery is the only option. So that's why it's really important to just be aware of these symptoms as well. And it's also worth saying that, or noting, 70% of women that have fibroids also have endometriosis, also have adenomyosis. So if you have one, you probably have the other, but not to worry because it is the same protocol. So We have a fibroids kit that we've developed. I'm not saying this is the only herbs you can use to help with fibroids. You can use herbs from the same therapeutic family, but what I've seen is these herbs work together well to knock down fibroids. So,
And that's
what are they?
on TikTok.
What are they? So, Dongquai. Dongquai is the best herb in terms of um, balancing your own internal hormones. So when it comes to your estrogen, when it comes to your progesterone, if it's too high, the Dongquai will bring it down. If it's too low, the Dongquai will bring it up. It's a it's one of the best hormonal balances there is. And the frustrating thing I'll say is if you look on Western medicine sites or Western health sites to be more specific, they don't know anything about Dongquai because it's a Chinese herb. And when they describe Dongquai, they just say, well, I think it's a phytoestrogen. No real evidence, no real studies. They just say it's a phytoestrogen. Avoid it. When you look to the Chinese literature, when you look at how the Chinese have used the herb, Dongquai is a premier hormonal regulator. And that's why it's effective in the fibroids. Yes, we want to avoid exogenous estrogen in the case of fibroids. Dongquai is an exogenous estrogen, it's a regulator. So that's just worth clarifying. The raspberry leaf is also in the protocol, and that is really important because it's so unique in terms of its ability to knock down exogenous hormones. So the same ones we're talking about from the contraceptions, the IVF, the red meat, the pharmaceuticals, the eggs. That is what the raspberry leaf is going after in your system and helping to remove those exogenous hormones. And women actually see really fast results with that in terms of menstrual symptoms. Butterfly pea flower, I mentioned come off the coffee, come off the green tea, come off the caffeinated drinks. The butterfly pea flower is a great replacement. It is highly alkalizing as well, so it helps there. So strongly recommend the butterfly pea flower. You can drink multiple cups a day. It's rich in antioxidants. It's antiviral as well. Covers a lot of bases. And then we've got the black seed oil. So we spoke about the Epstein-Barr virus, the Streptococcus as the root cause. Well, the black seed oil goes after all of them. It's fantastic for doing that, and one of the best herbs in doing that. And then finally, I like to use the ashwagandha. Now, ashwagandha primarily works from regulating cortisol, and we know we've spoken at length now the issues cortisol can play in all of these issues, or the role cortisol can play in all of these issues. But the ashwagandha is the premier cortisol regulator and is really protective of the uterus as well. So, with the fibroids, with the herbs, the process we usually see is within a month or two, within a cycle or two, symptoms would generally start to improve. Sometimes we do see, if you're start taking the herbs during menstruation, then you might bleed a little bit heavier during that first menstruation. But then after that, within a couple of cycles, cramping will improve. Your blood flow less blood flow, more energy. These are the things we typically see, less bloating. So, and then typically we say within 3 to 6 months is when we'd expect to see the fibroids start to shrink. Now, obviously, it depends how regularly you're getting your scans. It depends how religiously you're following the dietary advice. You could take these herbs and then drink a pint of milk every day. The fibroid's probably still going to grow. So the herbs aren't magic pills, but they do. When you put your body in the right conditions to heal, they definitely help the process along. It's also worth saying as well, just because it's natural, that doesn't mean it's the only choice for you. If you're someone who is looking to get pregnant as soon as possible, which we do see quite a lot, and you have a fibroid and it's impeding on your fallopian tube, or it's stopping you from getting pregnant, then sometimes surgery is the best option. Sometimes, obviously not a hysterectomy, but a surgery to get the fibroids removed, if it's safe, if it's possible, can be the best option. And then you can then use this kit or use these herbs as a preventative tool as well, which is really powerful for a lot of women. So just because, if you are against the clock or if you have excruciating symptoms, You can't go to work because the pain is so bad, and situations like that, which we also see. If you have a 30 centimeter fibroid, which is just impeding your daily well-being, then yes, surgery might be the best option for you. If you don't have surgery as an option, the herbs are still there, and the herbs are still helpful, and can still get to work. But it's just worth, you need to understand your options and not just say, well, I have to go natural and that's the only choice. Otherwise, I'm a loser. That's not the reality. We need to weigh all the options and make the best decision for you. Okay, so PCOS. What are the best herbs for PCOS? Now, these are mostly going to be diabetes type herbs. So you want things that are going to lower your insulin. You want things that are going to improve insulin sensitivity. You want things that are going to cleanse the liver. So, golden seal is a great herb you can use. We don't actually sell golden seal, but golden seal is rich in berberine, which is one of the premier, chemicals that helps with insulin sensitivity. Ashwagandha will also appear on this side again because the cortisol is one of the big disruptors of insulin. So if we can get that under control, we can start to regulate insulin. It also curbs the blood sugar spike of meals that you do eat. Black seed oil, again, curbs the blood sugar spike, goes after any underlying viral causes as well, protective of the uterus. So black seed oil is a very important herb in this protocol. Now a little secret weapon, Gurma leaf. We don't sell this one yet, but Gymnema sylvestre is another word for it. But what this special herb does is essentially it numbs your sugar receptors. So if you just have some dried leaf and you chew the leaf, you basically don't taste sweet things. So if you're someone who is like, oh, I just can't go without my, cake, I can't go without my biscuit, I need my cookie at work, then this is a great option for you because you can just chew on a few leaves and they will make you not want the cookie. They make you not want. You can even finish a chocolate bar if you wanted to. And the best thing about it is it regenerates the pancreas as well. So if you do have a damaged pancreas or a dysregulated pancreas, and that's why you're pumping out too much estrogen, it helps to regulate that as well. If you have diabetes and PCOS, it helps with that as well. So would definitely recommend some Gurma leaf as well. If you're someone who is struggling to lose weight with PCOS as well because of the hormonal dysregulation, then the ashwagandha and the black seed oil are really beneficial for that as well. Sea moss would be another good thing to add to this protocol as well. And then cinnamon is another one. So cinnamon you can season. If you do want to have a sweet treat, you can use the honey, you can use the cinnamon. All of these things are not going to spike your insulin in the same way. And cinnamon actually improves insulin sensitivity. It's a positive and it still tastes nice. So just because, we need to lower insulin, which means less sugar, less fat, that doesn't mean we have to starve ourselves. It doesn't mean we can't enjoy food ever again. It just means we have to be a bit more, we have to forward plan our meals a bit more. It means, we probably can't buy as many ready-made meals off the shelf. We have to do a bit more cooking. But we can still definitely enjoy food, and there's lots of things you can do. That's why I like the cinnamon in there as an example. So hopefully that explains, it provides a toolkit, it provides a framework for you to start to work on your...
Sorry, can you go back to that slide just for a second?
It starts to create a framework, it starts to create a toolkit for you to work on your fibroids, for you to work on your endometriosis, for you to work on your adenomyosis, for you to work on your PCOS as well. So, okay, let's move on to...
One sec. So I'm handing the herb to people who don't have the thing in front of them, PowerPoint. Because a lot of people are saying, what are you saying?
Okay.
Like Gurma, you don't have a Gurma.
All right, I'll just say it. So yeah, Gurma and cinnamon. So let's move on to PMDD. So PMDD is it's not PMS. It's different. It is it's a condition that often gets confused. It's a condition that a lot of men don't understand. It's a condition a lot of men don't appreciate or have any empathy for. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder. The symptoms, can be hyper emotional state. You can move from rage to depression. You can even have suicidal thoughts. You can, extreme brain fog, migraines, extreme bloating, insomnia. The definition of how to actually get diagnosed with PMDD is it has to either stop you from going to work, stop you from, maintaining a relationship, or stop your daily functioning. That's how extreme the conditions or the symptoms have to be to even get a PMDD diagnosis. There's also some other factors that need to happen as well. You need to bounce out of those symptoms as soon as you move out of your luteal phase as well. And it's a it's an observational diagnosis as well. And I'll explain the relevance of that in a moment. But I just want to explain what is it? What is it? It's not a hormonal issue. And if you do have PMDD symptoms as a result of a hormonal issue, you don't have PMDD because there is a difference. So, with PMDD, it's not, your estrogen, your progesterone, it's all moving in the right direction. What you do have is a neurosensitivity issue. You're essentially allergic to allopregnanolone. Now, allopregnanolone is a byproduct of progesterone, essentially. When the brain breaks it down by your GABA receptors, essentially you're allergic to that. So let's explain it. In the first half of the luteal phase, so luteal phase is after the ovulation phase. So in the first half of your luteal phase, progesterone rises whilst I'll just go back to the slide so you can see it. The progesterone rises, so that would be the green line, and your estrogen or estradiol here drops. Now, for most women, they kind of offset each other. The estrogen is a flexi hormone, where it can be an immunosuppressant, it can be an immunobooster, it's a growth hormone, it gives you energy, it gives you libido, all of these things. When that drops, but your progesterone rises, and your progesterone is mainly what gives you defense against stress. It's what your brain really thrives off. So when these are going against each other, it's not too bad during the luteal phase. You're coming off your ovulation, it's not too bad. Typically, in the back half, when they both fall together, that's when normal PMS symptoms hit. Now, this varies in the case of PMDD, or this is different in the case of PMDD, because in the first half of that luteal phase, when the progesterone spikes, you get a fast increase in allopregnanolone. And that is what your brain is, or your GABA receptors are allergic to. So allopregnanolone spikes, and then that causes your GABA receptors to become unstable. So these are receptors in your brain. When these receptors become unstable, it activates the amygdala. Now, the amygdala is the fear part of your brain. When that fear part of your brain gets activated, what happens when you're scared? You get stressed. Cortisol spikes. Now, those cortisol spikes suppress serotonin reuptake. So essentially, there's less serotonin available in your brain. Now, when there's less serotonin in your brain, serotonin is your happy hormone, so you don't feel happy. Or there's volatility, would be more accurate. So, in the first half of that cycle, when allopregnanolone has a sharp rise, it causes this problem. You might feel the more mild side of PMDD. So, and when I say mild, maybe that's migraines, maybe that's insomnia, maybe that's depression, maybe that's hopelessness. When the back half hits and your estrogen drops as well as the progesterone drop in, so you lose that natural defense from that the brain has. You also have the neurotransmitter instability from the allopregnanolone sharp drop. You also have your estrogen rock bottom. That's when things get really extreme. That's when you can get rage to manic, not manic. That's when you can go from rage to highly emotional, crying for no reason. Nothing's happened. It's just the hormones fluctuating. You can even have suicidal thoughts, complete brain scrambles. As I said, the definition is you cannot function at work, you can't be in your relationships, or you cannot do your daily functioning. That's how extreme things have to be to get a PMDD diagnosis. And it's all due to neurotransmitter sensitivity. And then as soon as that luteal phase ends and you move into your menstrual phase, you start bleeding, hormones, the progesterone balances out. You don't have the change in progesterone, so you don't get the allopregnanolone, and there's no symptoms. It goes away, and you're left thinking, well, am I crazy? You're like, 3 days ago I was feeling suicidal. Now I'm absolutely fine, and nothing's happened. So what is going on? And women will suffer for decades in this cycle every single month. And the worst thing is, you go, you get a PMDD diagnosis, and you're like, okay, I know what's wrong with me now. I'm not crazy. There's no support. There's nothing that is really actually done to help you once you've got that diagnosis. You know, is the root cause, or what they think causes PMDD, is genetics. And similar to ADHD, similar to autism, it's not like there is a PMDD gene and it's like, okay, we'll do the test, we'll see if you have the gene. All right, you have the gene, you have PMDD, we'll shut that off. That's not how it is. When we get to the point, and they did this with Huntington's, where they identified the gene and they've managed to turn that gene off, and it's helped people with Huntington's. Great. Labeling it a genetic condition has been helpful in that situation. We're not there yet with PMDD, and there's still millions of women suffering. So we need a better solution for now, whilst they work on the genetic issue. But the problem with the genetic theory is that it says, well, thousands of genes. I suppose that's a difference. With Huntington's, there's a Huntington gene, one gene, and we can say, all right, that's the Huntington gene, and that's what the cause is. Cool. With issues like ADHD, with issues like PMDD, autism, it's what they call a polygenic issue. And what that polygenic issue means is that there are thousands, hundreds or thousands of genes that contribute, 0.1% to your risk factor of developing PMDD. So what that means is, and on top of that, there is no test to test you for these genes, because you can only really get checked once you're dead, which isn't any use to anyone. So that's to say, you could have 900 of the 1,000 genes that are responsible and still not have any PMDD symptoms. You might have 10 of the 1,000 genes and still have PMDD symptoms, because it's also just to do with risk factor. So risk means you can still get it even if you're 1% risk. So there's no way to test you. There's no way to prove that even if you did have the genes, it's going to definitely cause that you do have PMDD. So ultimately, it gets to a point where, well, what value is this diagnosis? What value is this? You can't prove it. You can't even tell me I have the genes or not. What also complicates this issue is that there are so many other conditions that can replicate PMDD. If someone has mercury exposure, something, as I spoke about when we talk about ADHD and autism, cannot be proven. We do not have the medical testing, short of doing a biopsy, which is not going to be done, to know how much mercury is in someone's brain. And even then, if you do a biopsy of someone's brain, that tells you that there was no mercury in that part of a person's brain. But we know mercury clumps together. Mercury is magnetic. So you could have a whole mercury deposit here in the part of your brain responsible for speech, in the part of your brain responsible for secreting the subunits that go haywire when they're exposed to allopregnanolone in the case of PMDD. And you do a biopsy of somewhere else in the brain, no mercury, and it's definitely not the cause. So we don't actually test for this stuff. An inflamed central nervous system can cause all of the symptoms of PMDD. It's also worth saying, if someone's PMDD, someone can have all the symptoms, and if those symptoms don't just turn off 2 days after the luteal phase, well, you don't have PMDD. And that's like, okay, I don't have PMDD, phew. But you do have suicidal thoughts, you do have rage, you do have all the rest for your 3 weeks of your cycle. That's no better. We need to find an answer for you too. So, an inflamed central nervous system can replicate the symptoms of PMDD. Estrogen dominance can replicate a lot of the symptoms of PMDD. And I'll actually talk about that in a little bit. Something as simple as adrenal fatigue can replicate a lot of the symptoms here. You look at things like Addison's, which is a syndrome that essentially stops your body from producing cortisol, and that can literally, turn people into a vegetative state. So many things can happen when hormones are just off. that we don't give them credit for, or we assume it's something else. We like to label it something genetic, and there is no test. That is really important. All people are doing, all doctors are doing, is observing your symptoms and putting you into a bucket. If you're someone who has an inflamed central nervous system and mercury exposure and estrogen dominance, which is a lot of women out there because it's not uncommon to have all of those things, then you'll be slapped with a PMDD diagnosis. You'll also be given nothing to do about it, and then and then you think you're helpless. Well, it's my genes. Well, there's nothing I can do about it because my genes are my genes, and that's not the case. There is lots of things we can do to help. So let's talk about what is out there for people, for what help is provided for women. So the most common form of medication would be SSRIs. So selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So this is a form of medication, and the research says it is effective for a lot of women. And this is why I like doing these sessions. I want to hear the feedback. I want you to tell me if that is the case or not. Because if you will tell me, look, I took the SSRIs and I feel fantastic and I have no issue, then look, we don't need to fix a problem that's not broken. However, we do get lots of people asking about this, so I'm assuming that's not the case, even though the research would have us think that. But yeah, let us know if that is the case for you, because obviously everyone's an individual. But what the SSRIs do is essentially smooth the curve of the progesterone and in effect lower the allopregnanolone. And that essentially means that you don't have the same allergic reaction. And you take that during your luteal phase, which means you don't have to take it all the time. It works pretty quickly. The main risks would be developing withdrawal symptoms from the SSRIs each month, or you can get a fatigue as well. Can be possible, but generally well tolerated by most women, as the research would say. If SSRIs don't work, then SNRIs is what will typically get prescribed. Now, an SNRI is similar to an SSRI, but it has a more potent impact on mood, and it also, but it doesn't have the allopregnanolone effect, so usually not as effective. Then, if that doesn't work, what will typically be prescribed would be a contraceptive, and a specific type of contraceptive that specifically reduces your water retention. It also, reduces your sensitivity to cortisol as well, and it also stops you from ovulating. No ovulation, no luteal phase, so no symptoms. But if you're someone who is interested in, becoming pregnant, that's not ideal. And then the other option is, medication that will enforce temporary menopause. And again, for most women, that's not an ideal option. So we do need a bit more help. So, there's a kit, and on the left-hand side, for everyone that can see the slides, that will be if you have true PMDD. And that's not to say if you have the symptoms and fall outside the box of, healing within 2 days of your luteal phase ending, that you have fake PMDD. But I mean PMDD caused by, the subunits going haywire in reaction to allopregnanolone. That's what I'm talking about. If you have that, then the herbal protocol I'd recommend would be saffron daily. You can brew it in a tea, the red streaks. Saffron is really effective because it essentially does the same thing as SSRIs, but not in a putting the plaster over the injury way. It actually sets the stage for your brain to actually process the allopregnanolone differently. It's working on the allergy essentially, and it also improves your neurosteroid stability, which is really important. Now, the ashwagandha is another part of this protocol I strongly recommend because it improves your GABA sensitivity. So it helps you to not overreact to that allopregnanolone. Brahmi is another option that kind of helps your GABA receptors as well. And they also reduce neuroinflammation, which can make PMDD symptoms worse. Magnesium glycinate is another. I don't usually recommend kind of supplements or isolated supplements, but magnesium glycinate is one that is well tolerated by most people. It's effective, particularly when you're dealing with nerve issues or PMDD as well. So magnesium glycinate is something I'd recommend. Now, black seed oil is the other herb I'd recommend, and it's great across the board. If there is neurosensitivity, if there's an inflamed nervous system, it's going to help. It helps buffer the cortisol to reduce symptoms there. It helps to reduce neuroinflammation to improve symptoms there. It helps to knock down any viral load that can be contributing to make issues worse as well. So the saffron and the ashwagandha are working long term to fix the brain, so to speak, to fix the allergy. The black seed oil is helping to knock down troublemakers, and then the magnesium is helping to kind of replenish the brain as well. So if you fall outside the specific scope of PMDD, but you still have the symptoms, yes, the SSRIs can be a helpful tool in your toolkit to still function. Lemon balm is another option you can use, particularly if you are struggling with insomnia or the migraines. Then the lemon balm is really, really helpful. If you are someone that is struggling with valerian root is another option as well. Passion flower is another option as well that you can use to knock down the symptoms. So these aren't herbs that are necessarily going to heal the brain from the neurosensitivity issue that causes PMDD, but they can help with the symptoms and add to the toolkit alongside the SSRIs. Now, I want to also share with you a protocol that I came across from my research, and it's from Dr. Berg, who you may be familiar with. I don't usually just take other people's protocols and just say, yeah, do this. In this time, it's a little bit different. Dr. Berg's someone I actually learned from when I was doing my own training. And ironically, he actually calls PMDD an estrogen dominance issue, which it's not in its truest form. You can have estrogen dominance and also have PMDD symptoms. So it's not necessarily wrong, but true PMDD is not that. And the reason I think he talks about it so flippantly, or at least how he's described it, is because he said he's used to healing it so effectively or managing it so effectively. And when I was reading the comments of the video, it was one comment after the next of women saying, yeah, I've struggled with PMDD for 10 years, struggled with PMDD for decades, nothing worked. I tried everything. I was suicidal. I was at wit's end. I tried this protocol for 2 weeks or 2 months, and I feel fine. So, and that was not just one comment saying that. It was, I'm reading through, and it's one after the next saying this. So, because the protocol has nothing that could cause any adverse symptoms, I feel it'd be irresponsible for me not to share that, having come across that. And what it is it basically touches on all the things I've said, but cut out dairy. That was the first thing, and we've spoken about that extensively. Cruciferous vegetables. So he recommended using DIM, which is a supplement that is a concentrated nutrient that's in cruciferous vegetable. So if you've got a diet that eats loads of cruciferous vegetables, you don't need to buy it in the form of DIM. But if you struggle, then yes, DIM can be very helpful. And then sea kelp as well is what he recommended, and mainly for its iodine content. So iodine is great for the immune system. Iodine is great for knocking down the viruses. Iodine is great for your thyroid as well. And again, a thyroid dysregulation can also cause a lot of the symptoms associated with PMDD. If we're talking about Hashimoto's. So that would be why the iodine is so effective. And then we've got vitamin D. So he recommends a hero dose of vitamin D. And again, when we look at the role of vitamin D in all of the symptoms, in neurosteroid stability, vitamin D plays a role in all of the, constituent factors of PMDD. So again, it's not a surprise why the vitamin D works, but he recommends a hero dose of 10,000 IU. The daily recommended amount is 600 IU. I mean, the recommended amount should just be called the amount you need to survive and not drop down dead, because you can take in loads more than 600 IU and be perfectly fine. If you walk on a summer's day for a couple of hours in the sunshine in a shorts and t-shirt, you'll be taking in tens of thousands of IU anyway. So don't be overly concerned when you hear, wow, 10,000, because your body is super efficient at excreting, storing, and saving vitamin D as well. So that's the protocol that he recommended. I'm sharing it with you, so you can try that. There's no downsides to trying that as well. If you are going to do a vitamin D supplement, just make sure it's vitamin D3 plus K2 so you don't get calcification issues as well. You can, go to Dr. Berg's page and check out more on that protocol if you want to look more into it and the specific dosages and all that kind of thing. In terms of my protocol, then I'm happy to, the ashwagandha, the black seed oil, that's an everyday. You should be doing that every day. The saffron, brew that into a tea every day. Magnesium glycinate daily. The lemon balm, valerian root, passion flower. You can do that during the luteal phase as and when symptoms flare up. So, yeah, that is everything. I think we've covered so much there. I hope that was useful for you. We've covered fibroids, we've covered endometriosis, we've covered adenomyosis, we've covered PCOS, we've covered PMDD. So many different aspects of it. We've covered the herbs, we've covered the food, we've covered the hormones. Yeah, if we have any I'll start with the PMDD, PMS, all the things we've spoken about, Q&A first. And then if there's other questions, we can move on to that. Just to say, yeah, thank you for listening, because it is such an important topic. It's something that, men and women alike need to educate ourselves on. We don't get taught this stuff. We don't get taught this stuff. And the problem is the people who run the world don't care about this stuff. So and because of that, they make it out like women are just crying wolf. They're making out like women are making a big deal out of things. They're making out that women should just get on with it. The fact that there is no recognition of the period cycle in the workplace is a signal to society that we don't care if your hormones are fluctuating. We don't care if you have to bleed for 5 days of the month. We still expect you to turn up. We still expect you to, do the presentation. We still expect you to manage stress in the exact same way. We still expect you to turn up to the meeting and represent yourself well. We still expect you to have all your social interactions. All of these things, we don't care. And that is a problem to me. I think we should be designing a society that actually takes biology into account. We should be designing a society that actually, allows everyone to thrive in the best way possible. So, yeah, thank you everyone for listening. In terms of next steps, we do have that fibroids kit I described, which covers endometriosis and adenomyosis. We don't have a specific PMDD kit listed on the website. We do have the herbs available. We do not have saffron, but you can get that from kind of health food stores as well. So yeah, thank you. And we'll move on to the Q&A now.
I've lost some of the questions because Instagram came off.
Okay. I'll have a little scroll.
Can you go over for teens what is recommended to regulate menstrual period?
Yeah, so in terms of just regulating your cycle, so there's no underlying condition, or you probably maybe got some hormonal fluctuation if there's it's irregular, if it's maybe there's not a fibroid that's grown yet, but maybe on the way. So I'd recommend sea moss, I'd recommend dong quai, and I'd recommend raspberry leaf from a herbal perspective. From a dietary perspective, it's cutting out the dairy, cutting out the same foods really, and that's the good things, whether it's polyps, whether it's cysts, whether it's irregularity, whether it's heavy bleeding. In terms of the foods I spoke about, it's the same rules that would apply, because it's the same system that's being disrupted, and if that blockage is in one part of the system, it might manifest itself in one name, and if it's in another place, it will manifest itself in a different name. But the causes are the same. The disruptors to the system are the same, and that's why the dietary recommendations stay the same. As I said, there will be some fluctuations in the herbs, and for that specific question, there is a difference. But generally, the dong quai, the raspberry leaf, the sea moss, the black seed oil, the ashwagandha are going to be the herbs that are going to help when we're talking about direct reproductive tract issues. PMDD isn't a reproductive tract issue; it's a brain issue, which is why the herbs look different. I mean, there's no Dongquai; it's not going to make a difference. Yeah.
Thank you. It said that fibroids are the most common amongst black women. Do you think that's correct? If so, what are the scientific reasons? Is it something to do with our diets, genetic makeup, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't looked into the data to see if black women, African women, Caribbean women, Asian women are disproportionately affected. Disproportionately being the operative word there, and I suppose you'd have to look at disproportionately in different regions as well. I guess I have a bit of a sample bias where most of the people that I tend to see on a one-to-one basis tend to be of an ethnic background. What I will say I've noticed is, African women that are dealing with fibroids, the diet is almost always poor. When I say poor, contributes negatively towards or contributes positively towards the growth of the fibroid. So lots of eggs, lots of dairy, lots of oil, lots of starchy carbs, lots of things that are on the avoid list basically, and not too many things on the positive list. Not many. Well, the root vegetable carbohydrates are often boiled down in overkill, honestly, in stews, or not too many green vegetables in there, and quite meat heavy. So I think diet plays a massive role. Look, genetics could play a role. I've kind of spoken about my view on genetics more generally. I don't think they help very many people heal, because if I told you, well, women of African descent get fibroids more because their genes say so, I guess you're just going to say, well, I guess I'll do what I want because my genes, if I'm going to get it, I'm going to get it. And that's not the case, which is why I find the conversation around genes, unless you're a genetic scientist trying to find a cure based on the genes, I find that conversation a bit redundant because it's not got anything to do with helping you heal.
Thank you. What about lentils? Did you mention beans, legumes?
I didn't, and I actually had this question on Friday as well. So beans, legumes, in terms of beans we're talking about, as I said, soybeans, not good. Edamame beans, not good. But green beans, fine. So kidney beans, fine. Lentils, good source of protein, better source of protein than the red meats or the porks or all these kind of foods. So these aren't essential. These aren't healing foods. They just fall in the middle. They're not moving the needle too much either way, I would say. So a lot of people have this idea that they can't survive. They can't survive without protein, or they'll shrivel up and die if they don't have enough protein. That's not the case. When we're dealing with chronic healing, protein is not that important. It's not that important. So if you're thinking, I need to have 3 plates of lentils every day to get my 100 grams of protein in, don't do that. Please don't do that. If you want to have a regular portion of lentils to help get your protein, then sure. If you want to add some sattu powder, that's probably going to be the best source of protein. That's from chickpeas. Then sure. If you want to add a couple of teaspoons of spirulina, because that's another rich source of protein, then sure. But it's not that not hitting your protein count for the day is going to count negatively or grow your fibroids. You can focus back on your protein once the fibroids are gone, in my opinion.
Thank you. Someone said you explained so well, thank you.
I appreciate that.
Are cysts and fibroids the same thing?
Cysts and fibroids aren't the same thing, because cysts are fluid-filled, fibroids are hard, essentially, keloid type structures. So no, they aren't the same things, but so the difference is one can pop, but functionally, in terms of the root cause, they will be the same thing.
I'm 33, I get hot flushes in my face. I've had 2 ectopic pregnancies and had a fallopian tube removed and adrenals removed. Sorry, it's been typed out myself. And I also have very itchy skin. Got heavy periods and 2 millimeter fibroid. Any recommendations? So we've got 1 adrenal gland left.
Oh, 1 adrenal gland left. I don't think if there's anything in there that would stop you from following the normal fibroid protocol. Just do you have the list in front of you again?
The what, sorry?
The list of things you just said.
It's kind of separated.
Oh,
now,
okay.
so, yeah.
From what you said, I don't think there's anything that would stop you from just so fallopian tube removed. It was one adrenal gland and 33.
Fibroid.
Yeah.
Yeah, fallopian tube removed, 2 ectopic pregnancies, struggling to lose weight,
Yeah.
itchy skin.
Yeah, I'd just follow the fibroid kit. There's nothing stopping you in the ectopic pregnancies would have been a result of that fallopian tube, which has since been removed, and the adrenal gland just means you need to be more support for your adrenal. So I'd probably just do the fibroids kit with some Brahmi to help with that adrenal. Is what I'd recommend. I guess the question would be your fallopian tube. Did you have your other ovary removed? Even then, the Donquay will still be the one you want because you're going to need more support. You're going to need more support for that ovary that is still there. So the Donquay would still be the best option. I've seen the question, the best way to unblock the tube. Now, we get that question quite a lot, actually. And it depends on what's blocking the tube. Is it a fibroid? Is it scar tissue? You know, if it's a fibroid, then you want to follow the anti-fibroid kit. If you want to get pregnant, then maybe surgery is the best option. If it's adhesions from a previous injury or an ectopic pregnancy and things like that, then it depends how severe the scarring is. If the scarring isn't too bad, then black seed oil can be highly effective. Donquay can be effective. If the scarring is extreme, then the herbs can't do much, and then you're probably going to need surgery to remove that scarring. So it depends on the situation. But sorry, pelvic steam packs and pelvic exercises can help in terms of trying to remove some of that. Well, it depends if it's adhesion, light adhesion, then that can help as well.
Thank you. Visible follicles in scan and no period.
That sounds like you have PCOS, so it'd be the PCOS plan.
Any natural herbal remedies for ovarian cyst 4 centimeters?
So an ovarian cyst, sorry, is this separate to PCOS?
Yeah.
Is that okay? So if in that case, yes, I'd follow it because again, we said cysts, fibroids, endometriosis, they're all just the same defense mechanism for the same underlying issue. So it'd be the fibroids kit I'd recommend for you. Pamela, saw you ask, is Donquay good for menopause? And the answer is yes. Donquay is one of the best things you can do for menopause because again, it's a hormone balancer. So yeah, I would strongly recommend the Donquay for menopause, as well as the Shilajit.
I have primary ovarian failure. Any recommendations? No period.
Depends what's caused the ovarian failure. So yeah, I'd need to know what has caused it to be able to advise. I'll do one more on fibroids or on women's health, and then bring that session to a close, and then just do a few more other Q&As. I know there's probably some other women's health questions, and then we'll wrap it up there. Whilst you're looking for one, I'll just answer this one. So for women who have taken the herbs, how long do I suggest to use them, I suppose? Yeah, it depends on the issue. So as I said, for fibroids, I expect 1 to 2 months, we should see an improvement in symptoms. And then 3 to 6 months is what I would expect to start to see the fibroids start to shrink. When it comes to PCOS, I'd say, yeah, 3 to 6 again. And then PMDD, you know, if you're using SSRIs, if you're using a lemon balm, then they should work instantly. If they're not, then don't bother because they're not slow build. The herbs on the left-hand side are more of a slow build. I'd give that 2 to 3 months to see if your symptoms are improving. When I say left-hand side for people that can't see the slides, that would be the saffron, the ashwagandha, the magnesium glycinate, the black seed oil, as well as cutting out the dairy, upping your cruciferous vegetables, eating sea moss, and then just taking the vitamin D3 as well. And that, as I said, saw in the comments, that tends to work within a couple of weeks / months. Yeah.
Okay. For the last one then. Hi, have fibroids and 42 years old. Haven't had a period for 3 months. Negative pregnancy test.
42 years old, it could be perimenopausal. Um, Perimenopausal typically can last 7 years before menopause, which average is 52, I think, is the latest numbers. So yeah, it could be perimenopause, it could be adrenal fatigue, it could be estrogen dominance. That's what I'm saying. There's so many things it could be. We'd need to look at other symptoms rather than just I haven't had a period, because there's so many things. It could even be a pregnancy if you've only done one pregnancy test. So um, would definitely need more symptoms to be able to identify what the underlying cause is there.
Okay, done with.
Yeah. All right. Let's open it up to other questions, and then we shall. Yeah, and then we'll wrap up and leave it there.
Yeah, I don't have. Sorry, my Instagram closed, so I don't have some of the questions that were sent in earlier. So if you have any questions, please do resend them in on Instagram. Do you have any remedies for acne, rosacea, overactive bladder?
So acne and rosacea, that would be essentially an anti-streptococcus protocol. So oil of oregano, black seed oil, sea moss is beneficial for that as well. Cayenne pepper is good. Asparagus is good in terms of the dietary side of things. Cut out the fat, cut out the sugar. But yeah, sea moss over the affected areas on the skin. Topically, you can apply that. Black seed oil again, topically over the areas of the skin, mixed with oil of oregano and the carrier oil like coconut oil. You apply that directly over the skin, and that's going to help. And then, what was the other half of the question? Sorry.
Um, I've gone. What's the first part? Sorry, I'm past it.
Rosacea, acne. Just while you're looking, any remedy for extreme flatulence? I'd recommend our bloating kit. That's going to help expel gas from the large intestine. There's probably some trapped gas, so the moringa is particularly effective for that as well. So I'd recommend our level 1 of the bloating kit, maybe level 2 if that wasn't working.
Overactive bladder.
Overactive bladder. And the first half was,
Acne.
yeah, so if you have an overactive bladder, that could be a fibroid pressing on the bladder. It could be lots of different things in terms of what's impeding that bladder. It could be a UTI. It could be, um, yeah, lots of things. So you probably want to scan to check if it's fibroid. You probably want to scan. You probably want a UTI test, a bacterial test, to see what's going on there as the cause of that. But yeah, I mentioned how it would fix the first half of that question.
Cold sores or herpes, HPV, how does this occur? Is it related to virus issues?
Cold sore or HPV, did you say?
Yeah, it says cold sores or herpes, HPV, how does this occur? Is it related to virus issues?
Yeah, they're all viral issues. HPV and HSV are separate. Cold sores are typically HSV. You can, yeah, HPV and HSV are separate viruses, but they are susceptible to the same things, which is why you can use our anti-herpes kit on both. So which is the good news. So yes, they are different, but you can use them on both.
What causes clogged arteries and what herbs can unclog it?
Clogged arteries is typically too much cholesterol and too much cholesterol mainly in terms of clogged arteries, and that's what will cause the high blood pressure. So, or blood clots as well, but typically that's going to be more of an acute thing. So yeah, in terms of what can you do, we're actually going to be dropping a high cholesterol kit at some point, hopefully before the end of the year. But that would be black seed oil. Right, find out, yeah, hopefully next week. So yeah, that would be the black seed oil and the ashwagandha and the moringa. Those are all going to help your cholesterol. And then you can also do Brazil nuts as well. That brings the cholesterol right down. Is what I'd most recommend.
How
Um,
can I get high vitamin D levels with D levels tablet without prescription? I guess you probably explain always take vitamin D.
Yeah, you just if you get a vitamin D dropper, then you just take more vitamin D. Because vitamin D is super concentrated. Like one drop, you can have 10,000 IU. So maybe a couple of drops, you can get 10,000 IU in that. So you just get a high strength vitamin D, and that you can just buy that online. You don't need a prescription, and then you can just take more than the recommended dose. It's a bit more expensive. Um, yeah, I mean, I will. Let me check. Or you can check if you just type in Dr. Berg PMDD, you can see how often he recommends to do that 10,000 IU, or what he's seen and done to make it work. I don't think it's every day, so you can do that, and that's on YouTube, and you can find that video, and it's in there. And I'll give you the full details. But in terms of accessing the vitamin D, yeah, it's pretty widely available. If you just Google vitamin D supplement or vitamin D3 plus K2 supplement. Okay, it's 2:30 here, so I'm gonna start 2:30 a.m. So I'm gonna start wrapping up, and if James finds any questions whilst I'm wrapping up, then I'll address them. Otherwise, I apologize, and we will move it to, pardon me, we'll move it to Wednesday's session. So yeah, these lives every Sunday and Wednesday. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you again everyone for joining. We tried something a little bit different today, particularly for those of you joining from YouTube and Facebook, where you could hopefully see the slides. Um,
Good, good.
so yeah, glad that that worked on the tech side of things. Hopefully, it was helpful to have the visual aids and what we're talking about. They won't all be like that, but just it's good to mix it up every now and again. Yeah, just to let everyone know, we are doing more talks now in terms of, um, we are doing more talks in terms of, not in terms of anything. Sorry, the time is tired brain. We will be doing more talks. So if you have got an event, if you have got a session coming up, or if you know of anyone that's got an event or a session coming up looking for speakers or panelists, then yeah, that is something we're going to be doing a lot more of in 2026. So yeah, get in touch, let us know. It'd be great to do more of this, to speak like this to help more people basically. So get the word out. So we'll definitely be looking to do more of that. Reason why ferritin is low is usually a viral issue, or it can be a nutrient deficiency, but typically a viral issue. So you want to be using black seed oil, you want to be using sea moss, and you want to be using spirulina. See if that helps. Because those are herbs that are going to help rebuild your blood as well as go after the viral issue. Um, yeah, just the housekeeping points again, really. So Christmas gift set has now launched. Really excited about that. Great gifting opportunity. It's got the shilajit in there. It's got the butterfly pea flower in there. It's got the what's in there? Moringa? I want to say moringa. And it's also got the electric whisk in there as well. So really good Christmas present. Give the gift of health. That is now
No.
available. Did I get it all wrong?
Yes.
What is it?
Butterfly blue tea,
Did I
black
say
seed
that?
oil,
Oh,
shilajit.
okay. Honestly, we've launched about 10 different kits in the last couple of weeks. But yeah, so black seed oil,
Yeah.
shilajit, and butterfly pea flower.
Mm-hmm.
And something else?
A
Or
whisk.
and the whisk. Yeah, so that is just launched. That is available on discount as well. And then we are also have just launched the ADHD kit, which we'll probably do either next Sunday or Wednesday as a live topic session, because I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about that. We'll also be trying to be launching a new or enhanced blood builder kit. So rather than just having it as blood build level 1, 2, and 3, we're going to be moving it to say, right, do you need the high blood pressure kit? Do you need the high cholesterol kit? Do you need the anemia kit? And we'll be putting that together in a bit more of a functional way. when I was looking back, even I don't know what blood builder is really. I know what I intended, but in terms of someone looking to buy the herbs and say, yes, I need to build my blood, how does someone know they need to build their blood? So we're going to be transitioning that. The kidney cleanse kit is still coming. I went back and said, you know what, I feel like we can make this kit better. So I'm currently sourcing a herb from Mexico, just to make sure that the kit is as potent as it can be. So that's hopefully going to be coming before the end of the year. But that is the reason why the kidney cleanse kit hasn't launched yet. It's coming. Is that everything? I think that might be everything.
Never said anything about consultations today.
Consultations, yes. So consultations, I think we're pretty much booked up for the end of the year now because I'm taking a bit of time off. Well, I say a bit of time. Christmas, a couple of days around Christmas off. So yeah, I think consultations are all fully booked at the end of the year now. So, but you can get them going into next year. New year, new you. New year, new all of us, in fact. So consultations are all directly with me. We go through your underlying symptoms. We tie the pathogenic cause together, and then we can really start to go after the symptoms from a lifestyle, diet, exercise, how you're living. All of these things play a factor in your ability to heal from chronic issues. So yeah, I definitely recommend anyone who is kind of not feeling like they are completely on a to start with a consultation or at least a diet plan, because that's a newer service that we've launched. And then we will go through and traffic light each item that you eat. So yeah, lots of exciting things going on, lots of exciting things. As I said, hopefully that was an interesting session for everyone today. I definitely enjoyed it. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. So amazing, guys. Thank you for joining. Great to see the numbers up, especially for a topic as important as this as well. So really, really encouraging. We will be back on Wednesday, in fact. Yeah, probably around the same time. I think we've got a busy day, as always. For anyone interested, because we haven't really said, we're in Malaysia right now, so back in Malaysia. If anyone has any suggestions on things to do in Langkawi, then please let us know. On more of the roadside today. But yeah, just came back from Gilead. Fantastic place, lovely place. We may go back. But yeah, as always, if anyone has any suggestions on places to go in Southeast Asia, then we're always ears as well. But yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll touch base. And if you have any questions, message on the website. That's the best way to reach us right now. We are also incorporating a new kind of AI messenger manager system, just to help people get to where they need to be a lot faster, because before we just didn't have enough hands on deck to respond to everything. So if you are experiencing any issues with that, please again do let us know. Just send us an email, go to the website, because the AI isn't there yet. And that's just going to be the quickest way to get back to us. So yeah, just in the question actually, do you test for food allergy in the diet plan? No. So it's not like a hair test, it's not an allergen test. It's essentially, you write everything that you eat, anything that you want to eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, or for some people they find it easier to keep a food diary, a couple of weeks before the sending it in. You let me know everything you eat, and if you have any health objectives specifically, like I want to lose weight, I'm anemic, or whatever the case may be, then I'll go through and traffic light system all of the foods that you eat. So, avoid this like the plague, eat as much of this as you want. You can kind of ignore this, it's not moving too much left or right. That kind of grading, which really helps put you on the right track for longer term results beyond just the herbs. But yeah, that's on the diet review section on the website. So yeah, look, guys, as I say, I'm ready for bed. But really enjoyed the session. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll speak on Wednesday.